Welcome to another edition of Laurie Maves ART, live from the studio. Today, instead of some intuitive live painting, which I have been doing, I have been promising everybody. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. I have been talking about, or promising, or whoever's paying attention. Hi, Elizabeth. I've been talking about doing a sketchbook review. So, because that's a lot of the work I do here on Substack and over on YouTube is working in a sketchbook, but using a sketchbook for more of a process of self-discovery, of more of using it for art as therapy or expressive arts kinds of things. So some people who want to start, hi, Juliana, thanks for joining. Some people ask, well, they want to start a sketchbook practice and they don't know where to start. Well, I've made a video about once you have a sketchbook, but some people don't even know what sketchbooks to buy. So I went out and, well, it didn't go out. I used Amazon. So, hi. So went online and purchased 6 different sketchbook. Some are hardcover, some are not. But the most important thing to me in working a sketchbook is that the surface, you're not fighting the surface, right? You just want to be able to use materials that you want to use without having the paper disintegrate beneath you. I actually do have a sketchbook that I don't remember where I picked it up from. I keep looking up there because it's up there. And it does not accept wet media well at all. So it's a nice sketchbook for writing in and using colored pencils or using oil pastels. But if you put any kind of pressure on there, if you actually use any kind of really wet paint pens or wet markers, the pages just they bleed through. So that's always kind of a pain in the butt when that happens. So I don't want to make this video too long. I like to try to keep them under 30 minutes, and I have something to do at 9 o'clock. So I'm here earlier than usual. Thank you for joining. The first sketchbook I'm going to review out of the 6 today is one by a company called Artalicious. And this is one of the smaller sketchbooks I got. This one is 5.5 inches by 8 inches, and it was 2 of these hardcover books for, I think it was $13.75. So what is that? Less than $7 a sketchbook. This is a really nice solid hardcover. It has 110 sheets. So that's really great. So what we're going to do first is use a couple of different dry medias, and then I'm going to go shift into a wet media, and that's really my greatest concern. So again, this is a nice solid book. Opening up for the first time, it does not have perforated sheets, but it does have nice stitched sheets, you can tell. So I bet this book is going to hold up really well over time. And I guess if you'd want to pull out a sheet and maybe give it away as a gift, or, maybe you make work in here and you take it out and frame it, it seems like it might be possible. There isn't a lot of texture on this paper, but let's go. We're going to start with a nice number 2 pencil. Great. It doesn't seem to be, it's got a nice thickness to it. Fine. Nice normal paper. Let's go for some paint pens next. I've got these Posca pens, which can be very fluid. And it doesn't bleed through. Let's try a Sharpie. That's usually the telltale sign of a nice strong piece of paper. I don't know. Already I've gotten some bleeding through, and that bleeding through not only went through this one, it came through this page. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is not going to get a 10 out of 10. Let's try the oil pastels here. What is nice about this surface is it's pretty buttery. So if you're not using wet material, and say you do like oil pastels, the paper itself is really smooth. So it's taking the oil pastel really nicely. So great for pencils, great for Posca pens, great for oil pastels. Not so great for for Sharpies, which I tend to use a lot. Okay, I'm gonna also try 2 wet media. One is gouache and one is acrylic. So, no Sharpies. Juliana, do you use those Posca pens on rocks? These are great pens, and I believe they're oil-based. These are beautiful pens, and I think they work better than the Sharpie, oil pens. Okay, so let's see here. I've got some gouache I'm not that experienced in working with gouache, but, I did start using it this last year, and I found I really love it. Okay, so I'm putting some gouache down here. See, isn't that fun? Over the oil pastel. Remember that in the old school days? I don't know if you ever did that um, in elementary school, but we do these wax resist paintings where we would take watercolor and put it over crayons, and it made that wonderful wax resist. Okay, so I've got a nice, decent love layer of wet gouache on here, and I'm going to tell you right now, the paper is starting to buckle. So, ah, don't know how it's going to necessarily take. I'm wet media. I'm going to give it a 6. Yeah. Okay, because that's starting to buckle. And now I'm gonna go for just some super liquidy, super fluid, acrylic paint. This is just craft, acrylic paint, but I use craft paints a lot when I'm just messing around in my sketchbook. Palette knife. Again, it's got a nice buttery surface of the paper. Mixing some of this gouache now with the acrylic. And again, nice smooth surface, but the paper is you guys can see that the paper is starting to wrinkle. Hey, Neil, thanks for joining. Alexi, thanks for joining. Yes, it did just roll on the paper, but um, the paper is buckling. So again, a great little portable book, great for dry media, great for oil pastels. Let me check out one last thing. I have chalk pastels. I'm even going to take my chalk pastel and dip it in water. I like to do that a lot. So say if I'm painting or you wanna get kind of a painterly experience with your chalk pastels, and, mm, yeah. Well, I'm gonna pick up this later and see once it dries. Hi, Irene, thanks for joining. Um, but wet media for this Artalicious book, I'm gonna give it a 6. The dry media is great. It's a nice compact hardcover. I give that a portable book because it's nice and small. It's more of like a 7 or 8 for me. Um, I'm gonna set this one to the side. Great. The second one we're gonna review is a Praying mixed media, book, just around the corner, Club Thank You. This was one of the more affordable books. It is only 60 pages, however. It is not a hardcover. It's got a nice solid cardboard back. And this was one of the most affordable ones, but you only get 60 sheets. It was $6.93. So for $7, this is the same price as this one, because this is 2 for 13.50. This is a much stronger cover, probably more user-friendly if you're gonna be on the road or something. This one, I think what I'm gonna do with this cover is this is either gonna be a sketchbook I use at home, or I might collage, some images on the front of this or take some cardboard and reinforce the front so it can be as strong as the back. But this one is says specifically heavyweight paper for mixed media techniques. Let's give it a go. Starting out again with dry media, a regular number 2 pencil. This paper is a little more textured. and really smooth. The pages are not perforated. So if you are going to tear these out, you're going to get that perforated edges that you're going to have to cut off. But for pencils, great. Second one I like to do is the Posca pen. And again, we're determining how the sketchbook is going to hold up depending on what kind of media you give it. It's taking the Posca pen okay. Let's see if it bleeds through. No, but I can see it in the shadow, but it hasn't bled through. Let's give it the Sharpie test. Good old Sharpie test here. Dun, dun, dun. Fails the Sharpie test. So that's interesting because this prang says this paper is, I know it's not Arches paper. It says it's heavyweight, but it can't take a Sharpie. I mean, it'll bleed through. It doesn't necessarily bleed all the way through the next page, but I'm still not happy with that. Let's see for oil pastels. Nice and smooth and buttery, like that Artalicious paper was. Again, this is a praying notebook. Again, fairly inexpensive. I remember when I used to be able to go to Michael's and get a sketchbook for $5. Those days are over, but maybe they'll come back. I like the way nice and smooth surface. I'll give it that. Let's try some chalks, pastels. Nice, smooth surface. I get excited about that. Okay, so we've determined that. Let's go on to gouache. See what happens. With wet media. And we'll do like a wash here. Okay, it's holding up better. I would say this paper is holding up better than the Artalicious paper. It is buckling a little bit, but not horrific. Let's go for the wet craft acrylic. Mix it up here. Let's try this little bit of, hi, Valeria. Hi, Valeria. Valeria is my new friend from Sardinia. What a joy it is to see you on here, honey. Today I'm demoing different sketchbooks and their ability to hold up different media. And my cat just showed up. Hey, take him. He's a big boy. And he's curious like most kids. And he gets into the paint. Okay, so this wet material, not bad. Not bad. The paper is buckling a little bit. But again, this book was $6. So, hi, Super Cat. Yeah, he needs to meet Hercules. That's English. Hercules in Italiano. Okay, so wet media with this prang heavyweight paper. I mean, look at the back's already buckling. Do you guys see that? Basta così. So, I don't know. I probably wouldn't choose this if you were a person planning to do lots of watercolors or lots of painting. Stop it! So, stop it now. You can't eat those. This cat is 15 pounds. And he's a year old. So, I don't know. Again, if you're a really dry media person, Ercole, grazie, Ercole. If you're a wet media person, I might not choose this praying book because of that purpose, because you're going to get a lot of that wrinkling and bowing in the pages, and that's going to be frustrating, especially if you're if you're if you're a seasoned artist and painter, you probably are just going to get Arches stuff. But The praying, again, I don't know. The next one I have is called Pen Gear. This is a little bit larger. This is in a 9 by 12 sketchbook. This is the largest book I have purchased. I believe I got this at a Walmart, and it's 75 sheets, and the cost is under $8. Hey, Robert Yance, how are you? Today I'm reviewing sketchbooks. Maybe you want to start a sketchbook process, Robert. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, so this one says perforated sheets, acid free, pen gear. Again, it's got a flimsy cover. I mean, nice black cover, but it's super flimsy. So again, it's not something, again, if you're going to take it on the road, just know it's very flexible. Maybe that's a good thing that you're looking for. I tend to like the hardcover books. What is nice about this one is that they have perforated sheets. So if you're going to make an image in here, or if you like to make work in your sketchbook, you can easily tear down on the perforation, and you can frame it, you can give it away, you can do whatever without having to come back with a cutter or worrying about getting a nice even edge there. So that's a thumbs up for this one. Robert, I'm using your mother's pencils. Do you remember this? Robert's mom collected all kinds of things. Robert's a really good friend of mine who lives in Colorado, and um, a while ago he sent me a bunch of art materials, and this was one of the things, which is a beautiful set of number 2 pencils, and these are great pencils, by the way. So this paper is more textured than the other 2, and takes dry media well, as it should. Let's go on to the Sharpie test. And you guys know what else I need to do actually is a Sharpie paint pen test. Let's add that to the mix. Okay, so I've got the Posca pen. Do you guys know each other? Alexi, I had a sketch with like transparent pocket to have different color every day. Well, that would be fun, Alexi. Robert and I go back on a number of years. Yes, I would say. Um, I don't know. It's kind of, when that paper kind of kicks back a little bit and like it's going to start disintegrating. Here's a really super wet Sharpie. And then let's try a regular Sharpie. And see what happens. Ooh, better. Better quality as far as the bleed through. Not as much bleed through as the other 2. So if you use lots of wet markers, I would say this one might hold up for you. Ah, no. I mean, again, it works here. It's not bleeding onto this side so much, but it's not foolproof. Let's go on to oil pastel. Again, there's a slight texture in the paper, but it's taking the oil pastel well, as it should. Some people like textured papers, some people like ultra smooth papers. And that works fine. Let me try. Oh, here's chalk. Okay. Okay, because the paper has that nice texture on it, it's going to give you some kind of greater texture if you're a person who loves to work with chalk pastels. So this might be a decent book for you. Let's give it the old water test. Again, I'm using gouache. That brush is not behaving. Say I was to do a big wash here. And I'm getting that pretty wet. And how is it responding? Okay. I would say better. It is buckling a little bit, but better than the first 2. Better than the first 2. And the last test is acrylic paint. So say you're to work with a bunch of acrylic paint and you wanna leave that nice and thick. It's rolling over the page as well. But let's see about its buckling. You know, meh. I feel the paper is pretty flimsy at this point, so I don't know if I would use a lot of wet media on there. Now, if you had the patience to start gessoing every page and letting it dry, this might be a good one for that. Again, it's super economical, and, I do love the perforated pages. This last spring when I was in Sardinia and I did, a little self-directed artist residency for a month, and I was traveling around and I was, making portraits of people. It was really nice to have the perforated pages because once I'd make the portrait, I would just take it out of the sketchbook and give the portrait to the person, um, who was the model for it. So, I don't know. This brand again is called Pen Plus Gear. I'm not a fan of the thickness of the paper. Again, it's kind of like a 6 or a 7. I'm not a fan of the floppy pages. I'm a fan because it's perforated and because it's 9 by 12. It's the largest sketchbook I'm reviewing today. 3 more to go. This one is called Kevin and Sasa Crafts. I got this one on Amazon. It is 8.5 by 11 inches. It has 80 sheets. It was $8. It has perforated sheets. It has a nice strong cover. This one, my friends, if this one holds wet media, I'm going to be super excited about this one because the price point is all about the same. These have all been about $6, $7, $8 a piece, and nice perforated sheets. The paper here is not as smooth. It does have some texture and mm, some some. It's got texture a little bit. If you like texture in your paper, this could be for you. Let's start like we always do. Dry media. Nice. Not buttery smooth. So if you do like texture, working with texture, the texture of the paper, not bad. Let's go in for the Sharpie test and the Posca pen. I am writing pending form makes sense. Alexi, what country, if you don't mind me asking her, what is your native language? I think you do pretty well with your English. When I make this, the marker makes that sound. I think it drives the cat a little bonkers. Okay. Um, Posca pen. It does okay. Not bleeding through. I'm really hoping this one works well. Let's try a Sharpie. That Sharpie probably needs to take a long walk off a short pier. Let's try this one. Russian. Well, welcome, my friend. This is a drier Sharpie. This is another Sharpie here. Let's see how the Kevin and Sasa holds up. About the same as the others. Maybe a little bit more durability. I want to be wowed. And maybe the only way to be wowed is to have Arches paper. Let's go for the gouache test, shall we? Do you guys use gouache? I'm fairly new to it, but I love the opacity, but I love the fact that you can have it work like a watercolor and that you can come back and rework it again. So I'm getting that pretty wet. Boy, Marcello, it's driving you crazy, these noises, huh? And let's try. The problem if he comes up here, there's nowhere for him to go. Nah, go outside and play. Liquid, liquid acrylic mixed in with the gouache. Let's see what happens. There's still some blue paint on there. Hmm. Okay, that's right. Tear up my carpet. This cat, he's much more like a monkey than a feline. Okay, we've got nice wet media on there and perforated sheets. There's a little bit of bleed through, a little bit of buckling about the same amount, maybe a little less buckling than the others. But overall, then I would give this book, this Kevin and Salsa book, my favorite rating yet because of all these other factors. One, it's a nice size. Two, it has perforated sheets. Three, it has a number of sheets in here instead of 60 like the Prang has. This is 80 sheets. Oh, that wasn't. You guys, sometimes having a cat is like having a child. My apologies. Okay, so for all the reasons, this is my favorite book, also because of this hardcover. So you should be able to travel nicely with this without it getting beat up. 4 down, 2 to go, friends. 2 to go. I'm gonna put this. Okay, the next book I believe is the most expensive out of all of them. It's by a company called Van Rito. Sorry, Van. Pronounce that if you're an English speaker. Vanertro. Vanertro. Um, this book is different in the sense that it's 8 inches by 8 inches. It's 120-pound paper, and it's 120 pages. So it's double the size of the other books. So just consider that. It's 120 pages. Um, it has this really cool little, it has 2 little pockets in the back. It doesn't have perforated sheets. It's 8 inches by 8 inches, 120 pages for $16.78. So it's twice as expensive as the other books, but guess what? It has twice as many pages. So page for page, except for the pages are 8 inches. It's a square book versus like an 8 by 10, 8 by 11, or 9 by 12. So it's a cute little compact book. It has this little elastic closure, which is nice. The pages, I'm sorry, the covers, super hard, which I love. And the top is really smooth. So if you'd want, you could collage something right on the front of this and make it your own special notebook, special sketchbook. Again, interior pockets to put notes or collage materials or whatever you'd want to carry with you in there. That's kind of cool. They're like this accordion little side pockets. And it also has, I love this, your happy time companion. It has a bookmark, a sewn in ribbon bookmark, which is sometimes nice. And it has perforated sheets. This book could have everything you ever wanted. So let's see how this one works. Dry media first. Lovely. Oh, you know what I really didn't try was erasing. Okay. Nice for dry media. Nice, solid. Mi piace, mi piace. Okay, let's try the markers. Let me get a Sharpie. So for Sharpies, again, this one was called Sketching Space Exploring. What is the brand? It was a brand that I couldn't pronounce. And the Posca pen, before we flip it over and see, looks like I need to order some more Posca pens. Okay, this is more of a wet Sharpie. So this is kind of always the where the rubber meets the road, one might say. Ah, very nice performance. Not a lot of bleed through. And I really was wet right there. That wasn't bravo. This book is doing the best so far. Let's push this Sharpie issue a little bit, shall we? So I'm doing Sharpie over Sharpie here. Ah, hey, pretty good. Pretty good. Let's go for some oil pastels. These pages are not silky smooth. They have a nice little texture on them. They're taking the oil pastel nicely. Yeah, okay. Chalk, and because it's one of those textured papers, it works well with a chalk pastel, leaving, you can really work with the texture of the paper. Let's dip the chalk in water, see how that rolls. Not bad. I have a sneaking suspicion the wet media is going to do well. Let's hope. Let's go for some gouache. Boy, I do love that. Just reminds me of being a kid when we would do those wax resist doing, in, elementary school. We'd draw with crayons, and then we'd put watercolor over top of it. I don't know if you guys did that too. Hey, Della. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining, you guys. I'm testing different sketchbooks with different materials and kinda giving them a rating system. Okay, that's really wet right now, and I'm not seeing a lot of buckling. I'm getting really hopeful about this book. Again, remember I said it was twice as much, but it has twice as many pages. So it depends if you're a person who likes a lot of pages in your book, or maybe you don't want to take that long to go through it. So, but I love the perforation, and I kind of like that it's a square. I'm kind of a square. Squares and squares do well together. Okay, you can see how wet that media is because it's almost dripping off the page. I'm not getting a lot of buckling. I'm not getting a lot of bleed through. So far, kids, this one is my favorite sketchbook to date. Again, it had a strange name to it. This was the I'd want to say Van Rito, but there's no vowel in there. Van Rito, Van sketchbook, 120 pages, perforated pages, hardcover, withstanding wet media fairly well. Comes with perforated pages, comes with the pockets in the back, and comes with this ribbon bookmark. So far, kids, this is my favorite. Kids, friends, I say kids in a lovingly way. One more to go, and that will be it. We'll try to finish this by 9 o'clock. This is by Joy Babe, hardcover sketchbook, 80 sheets, acid-free, spiral bound. It says it can take pencil, pen, and charcoal, 9 by 11 inches. Joy Babe. I love the cover. It's almost like a nylon. It's not the hardcover is like a nylon cover with some texture. You might be able to collage something on the front of this if you'd like. 80 sheets. What did I pay for this? $12. Because this is one of the more expensive books, less sheets of paper. $12 for 80 sheets, acid free. Perforated pages. Again, my favorite because you can tear them out. I'm telling you right now, friends, this paper feels super thin. So even though it's acid free, that's great. But if it can't hold the media, you're going to be limited. Nice, smooth surface. Even though the paper's thin, it seems strong. Markers, Sharpie test, couple of layers if you're going to be coloring thickly with a Sharpie or, filling in a lot of space to one level. And then I'm going to go over that twice. The worst thing when you're working in a sketchbook is or in any time you're working with art materials and the materials fail you, that is just no fun. It's almost like it stops your process. And we don't want that. We want to create freely. We want our ideas to flow. Okay, that's a bunch of Sharpie on this paper. Oh, yeah, it bled right through. Had a feeling because the paper is super thin. Oil pastel. Nice and easy. That's no problem. So if you're an oil pastel person, you might like this book. Nice. I really think the water test is going to go sideways here. Getting some gouache, keeping it pretty flowy, just like the last one. Let's see what happens here. And we'll slap on some acrylic and we'll wrap this review up. Yeah. No, guys, the paper's already buckling. So this is not great for wet media. That's too bad. So isn't it great that I went out and spent money on these sketchbooks? Again, not a lot. I think the price point was $6, $7. But now you don't have to if you don't want to. You can do this obviously if you want, but I've done it for you. So this super, super wet, super flimsy. Not a fan. Not a fan. Again, this was the Joy Babe 80 sheets acid-free hardcover sketchbook. I like it for its hardcover. I like it for its perforated pages. Its price point was more than the others, $12 as opposed to $7, and its pages are flimsy. So that's it. I think if I would have an overall recommendation, it would be the Kevin and Sassa Crafts book, because this is a bigger book. The paper is a little bit stronger, perforated sheets. But my favorite overall was the one I can't explain to you because it's 120 sheets. It has all these other features. And Again, if you guys know how to pronounce it, Van Rito. Thanks, Juliana. Yeah, this is my favorite one by far and away. I'll show you really quickly all the books next to each other. That was the one I started with. It's the small one. You got 2 for 13. This was the Prang. It was pretty loose, not so great for $6. Um, this one was the Kevin and Sassa one. That's the one I just did, which is the Joy Babe. I would avoid that one. The Prang was $6, but it has a loose cover. And this one was the one that was from Walmart, 9 by 12 inches. If you want a larger page, this one isn't holding up too bad. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me for my sketchbook review. This should pop up over my YouTube channel. If any of you are watching here and you ever are over on YouTube, I know that typically tends to be for old people these days. I've heard my son says you need to get on TikTok. I'm not doing TikTok. I don't have anything against TikTok. It's just one more thing. I'm trying to simplify my life. Um, if you have questions or comments or questions to me, just send them to me on a message and I can review. If you were like, hey, which was that book or what other kind of materials were you using, I can do that. And I'm glad that you find it peaceful. Thanks, Juliana. You guys have a blessed day. I'm going to go meditate right now and I'll see you later. Ciao. Thanks for watching.